The quarterback battle is over, and we have entered the Teddy Bridgewater era. The preseason is a little more than 24 hours from concluding, but before that, Broncos country is getting their first look at their 2021 Broncos squad in person at Empower Field at Mile High. We'll take a look at who we'll see for the first time and who will have one last chance to make a lasting impression as the final roster decision looms. Welcome in to the Broncos Media Center, everybody. This is Broncos Weekend. I'm Matt Boyer. Alexis Perry and the Athletics' Nick Kosmider will be along in just a moment. But as always, we begin with the Hall of Famer, Steve Atwater. Steve?
What's up, Matt Boyer?
18 days away from Game 1 against the New York Giants, and Vic Fangio names his starter. Welcome to the Teddy Bridgewater era. What do you think about the decision, and what do you think about the timing of the decision?
Yeah, well, I think it was the right decision for this team at this time right now. And initially, I wanted him to wait until right before the New York Giants game to discuss it, to disclose it, so the Giants would have a much more difficult time preparing. But I think it was at the right time.
Broncos country has been wrapped up in this decision. They were waiting anxiously for the announcement, and when it happened and the dust settled, each of these quarterbacks remained just as motivated as they have been all preseason long.
Shotgun snap. Bridgewater, quick throw, right side, into the hands of KJ Hamler. Touchdown, Denver.
It's one of those deals when I got traded here that I was just looking forward to having an opportunity to come here and, make an impact in whatever way I could. That's been my mindset, man, everywhere that I've been. It's just like, how can I leave an everlasting impact on this organization? And, right now, I had the opportunity to just come in and compete. I'm looking forward to, what's in store for us.
Locke takes the snap, looks right, comes back left, now runs. He shovels the ball ahead, and this ball is caught.
This preseason, and this, such a special team. I was, hoping and looking forward to being able to lead this team. But, no finger pointing, no negativity. It's going to be about me finding ways to still, make this team great. Whether that's, in practice, working with Teddy, trying to find ways for him to get better, whatever he needs me to do. That's pretty much my goal. Look in the mirror, see what I need to get better at, figure out what it is to, keep progressing, keep getting better. Not taking any steps back, just keep taking steps forward without, taking some of the reps.
Hopefully 4 or 5 years from now, I'm turning on the TV watching Drew play, and he's calling me on Saturdays, hey, what you doing, man? And I'm gonna be watching you tomorrow. Hopefully we can just continue to grow that way. I can be that guy in his corner who he can come to when he have questions, throughout the course of his career.
Teddy steps up, now throws the ball middle of the field, caught inside the 20. This is Jerry Jeudy inside the 15, inside the 10, and rolled out of bounds at the 5-yard line.
This entire team is hungry. We know the talent that we have here, and we know what's in store for us, but, we can't sit here and talk about it. We got to continue to put the work in every day, and eventually, our hard work will pay off. We're putting together a solid foundation right now in training camp so that when the season comes around, we can just get rolling.
Saying he's a journeyman does a disservice to what Teddy Bridgewater has been able to accomplish at this point. 66.5% completion percentage for his career. He graded out as one of the best QBs in week 2 of the preseason, and he has been very consistent, Steve. So, Vic Fangio has said there's a calmness to him that translates to the pocket. Have you seen that? What has Teddy done to set him apart from Drew this preseason?
Yeah, well, first off, you got to say the leadership portion. Drew Locke mentioned it himself. He saw how he communicated with the guys, and that's something that Drew Locke wants to incorporate into his game as a quarterback. But, yeah, his awareness in the pocket is really good. His calming demeanor is really good. And then just the way that he leads the team down the field just in a methodical manner. I really like all those traits about him.
Steve, Drew Locke stepped to a microphone and showed maturity beyond his years. That was a tough thing to do after losing that quarterback battle, but he wanted to make sure everybody knew, hey, this isn't the end for me. So what are the next steps for Drew as we enter 2021?
Well, first off, right now there's no more pressure on Drew Locke, so he can relax. And I think without him having a veteran in the room right when he started, I know Joe Flacco was there, but we heard some of the comments Joe Flacco saying really it wasn't his job to prepare him. But him having a veteran quarterback who's been in great locker rooms like Drew Brees, to have a guy like that who can teach you some aspects of the game that can increase your game to another level, I think is going to help him out tremendously. So I think he's got the right attitude. And I think Drew Locke, we definitely haven't seen the last of Drew Locke. I think this is just the start of a newer Drew Locke.
The last time we saw Drew Locke come off the bench, he went 5-1 in the month of December. Right. So the circumstances are a little different, I get it, but we know he's got that mental makeup to where this won't affect him in a negative sense. I don't think he's shown the ability to kind of do that at the end of the season if called upon. So let's talk a little bit about this Broncos offense. Vic Fangio mentioned that Bobby Massey will be the team's right tackle. So the offense is looking pretty set as we take a look at some of these starters. Some fans out there, Steve, are lamenting the fact that we won't see the big plays and that things will be too safe with Teddy Bridgewater. I don't see that being the case because he showed the ability to make the big plays. What do you think this identity will be for the Broncos heading into 2021 with Bridgewater under center?
Well, just like we talked about his traits, I think that the offense is going to be more methodical, more longer drives, and that's what defenses love. I know defensive coaches love that as well, but just offense staying on the field, running the ball, play action pass, and then completing the passes, the 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, completing those consistently. And Teddy Bridgewater has shown that he can lead the team to do that, but we got to see it in the regular season.
If you go back and watch some of that tape from Bridgewater last year, that Chiefs tape, he played the Chiefs about as well as anyone this side of Tom Brady. So if the Broncos country, if you can get that type of performance out of Teddy Bridgewater week in and week out, I think they're going to be pretty happy with the results. Another guy that Broncos country is excited to see, Steve, this week, Vaughn Miller, 58, is going to be returning to the field at Empower Field for the first time since 2019. And even though it's a preseason game, Miller's excitement and his preparation, he says, are in midseason form.
I've attacked this week like a regular week for me. This is a true dress rehearsal for me. You know, yesterday was first day practice. Hard like I would in a regular season. Attack the day like I would in a regular season today. And I'm gonna get ready and I'm gonna go through pregame warm-up and I'm gonna go through my whole routine from the night before, 2 nights out. And changing the way I eat, 2 nights out. This is a true, dress rehearsal for me, and I'm gonna go out there and play, and I'm not really worried about the numbers. I just wanna go out there and touch the field in a long time. I haven't played in a game since, the Raiders in 2019.
Carr steps away from pressure, and Vaughn Miller grabs him, and Miller with the sack and the dance. Why not? Sack back at the 31-yard line.
It's super exciting to be back in there and go through the motions and just drive to the stadium and go through the whole thing.
Let's ride out strong, one play at a time, for the brother next to you.
It's a true dress rehearsal for me, and I'm attacking it like it's game week for me.
You can see the excitement in Vaughn Miller's face, Steve. You can see that he's raring to go. Hasn't been in front of the fans since week 17 of the 2019 season. What does he need to keep in mind, or what's most important, getting back into the flow, getting back that first series, that first game? What does he need to accomplish, or in your mind, make sure that he checks off the checklist?
Well, having not played for a full year, the biggest thing is going to be tackling guys full speed, taking them to the ground. Hopefully it's quarterbacks that are going to the ground, but just, getting used to hitting the ground and rolling and, slamming guys down on the ground and getting back up and having to go again and again and again. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And then also, when you have been playing the adrenaline, you forget about how much adrenaline is flowing when you're playing in a game as big as in the NFL.
He's talking about how excited he is to play with guys like Pat Surtain, Justin Simmons again, Shelby Harris. What are the expectations for Vaughn in this defense going into 2021? Because obviously we see the excitement in his face. I know you're excited, but what's a reasonable expectation? We're talking double-digit sacks here, Pro Bowl. Is it all on the table for him?
Well, I'm going to say if he stays healthy, 12 to 15 sacks at a minimum. Great leadership by example. Vaughn, he has great leadership skills, but I think he's more of a guy who, if he goes out and plays hard, gets all the sacks, that's the leadership that he has to show there. And then just being a great teammate, supporting all the younger guys on the team the way that he does. He's an amazing teammate as it is, so I think he'll just be that same Vaughn Miller that he's been in the past.
I don't care if it's a preseason game. When 58 comes out that tunnel on
Trouble.
Saturday, the goosebumps. They're gonna be there, Broncos country. They're gonna be there. We've got to take a quick break, but when we come back on Broncos Weekend, we are less than a week away from the Broncos needing to get down to 53 players. So which guys used the Seattle game as a launching pad to solidify their spot? And which guys could lock up a spot with a big showing against the Rams? We'll tell you next.
Pressure on the way. Magoo sets up the screen, and it's well diagnosed, and it's going to be an interception. That's Deshaun Williams.
I watched the sideline reaction, And for them to react like that, man, it shows like they appreciate my hard work, and it doesn't go unnoticed. And everybody know my story. You know, I done got cut by this team 4 times, and still here. You know, still making some type of impact. And like I said before camp, like I don't want to leave here. Like I'm letting it be known, and I made it known last year. Like this is a place that I want to be.
Bounces around, hit. The ball is free and bouncing out over the 45-yard line. Picked up. The Broncos have it, and it was Jonathan Cooper.
I mean, I'm never going to say I doubted myself. I knew what I was capable of. I didn't know the journey to get here would be so hard, but at the end of the day, I mean, I just have confidence in myself, and I just want to go out there and play.
That ball is caught, and Eric Saubert runs out of bounds inside the Seattle 1-yard line with a first down.
Whether it's in the run game, in the pass game, on teams, man, I'm going to be there. I'm going to perform at a high level, and that's what I bring, and that's what our whole tight end room is going to bring. Built awesome opportunities, and let the chips slide where they may.
Welcome back to Broncos Weekend. Okay, Steve, we're going to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, okay? Because last week when we talked, we thought Jonathan Cooper might be poised for a big game against Seattle, and boy, did he deliver. Eric Saubert, Deshaun Williams, and Cooper, all 3 had great games. So when you look at that list, who impressed you, and was there another guy that wasn't on that list that impressed you?
Yeah, they impressed me big time, especially Deshaun Williams, man. I'm so impressed with how stocky he is up there at the line of scrimmage. He reminds me of a guy who played back in the day, Michael Dean Perry. Wasn't a very tall guy, but he was extremely stout there in the middle. But another guy, in addition to those guys, Seth Williams, the receiver out of Auburn that we drafted, and also Quinn Miners, the guy who, you guys know, has the big belly. Yes, he played really well. Looks good in that 77. Remind me of my late friend Tony Jones at that position. Tony played tackle, but he was playing guard. He looked really, really good, and I'm excited to see how well those guys will play this week, and their development as the years go on.
This preseason game, Steve, we're only getting 3 this year. A lot has been made about that. Guys have less chances to make an impact. So looking ahead to this Rams game, are there any guys in your mind that need to use this game as a launching pad? Who can kind of solidify their spot on the roster, or who needs to have a big game to make sure that they're on the minds of the coaches when that 53 comes out?
Yeah, well, I have 3 guys. One, Tyree Cleveland. I haven't seen a ton of him in the preseason. He had a great preseason and season last year. I thought for a 7th-round draft pick, I thought he played really well last year. I haven't seen that much of him this year. I want to see him make some splash plays and make a push to make this roster. Also, Kerry Vincent, the cornerback out of LSU. He missed some time in training camp. He needs to show that he can play at this level. And then the last player I have is Jamar Johnson, another player who's missed some time early on, got a chance to play in the game against Seattle, but I need to see a little bit more from him.
Jamar Johnson was one of those safeties that's looking to kind of make an impact in that DB's room. And Steve, speaking of DBs, they've been on fire this preseason. 2 preseason games, 2 INTs. We saw PS2 in the first game getting a pick six. Justin Simmons getting an interception against the Seahawks. How impressive have these guys been to you getting those takeaways? Because that has been emphasized big time in that DB's room in 2021.
It's extremely impressive, and the thing that goes along with that is the edge rushers putting pressure on the quarterback. We saw Jonathan Cooper putting pressure on the quarterback. And then having the defensive line and linebackers stuff the run on 1st and 2nd downs, you got to throw the ball deeper, and it gives the defense more options. So I think the defense is in for a great year. Yeah, we've been playing against some of the twos, but I think overall this defense is going to be very special this year.
We've heard a lot from our friends of the program. Ray Crockett comes to mind. And Vaughn Miller mentioned this. PS2 might be guarding some tight end, might be out on those tight ends in a dime package. What can a dime package do for this defense if you have those 6 DBs and PS2 guarding the tight ends?
It can be scary. I mean, to have Ronald Darby, Kyle Fuller, and then Bryce Callahan in the slot, and then to have PS2 on the field covering tight ends. And covering tight ends for him will probably be easy, even if it's a Travis Kelce or a Darren Waller, just because he has the size, he has the speed to run with a KJ Hamler. So can you imagine him covering tight ends? It's going to be a beautiful thing. And I don't think we've seen this from another defense where you put a cornerback a nice-sized cornerback on a dominant tight end and let them battle it out, I think PS2 is going to win a lot of those battles.
We've seen PS2 cover some of those tight ends and the closing speed, Steve. Oh my goodness. It is something to marvel at. We've got to take a quick break, but when we come back on Broncos Weekend, how does Broncos country feel about the Teddy Bridgewater era, and who are some locks to make this roster? Alexis Perry is asking the tough questions of Nick Kosmider from The Athletic. Next. Welcome back to Broncos Weekend. Okay, Broncos country, the quarterback battle, that is in the books. The Teddy Bridgewater era has begun. So, what are some reasonable expectations for this Broncos offense, and who are the locks to make this final 53-man roster? Well, Alexis Perry caught up with Nick Kosmider from The Athletic as the preseason comes to an end.
Thanks so much, Matt. Here with one of my favorite Broncos beat writers, Nick Kosmider from The Athletic. Nick, finally, the quarterback competition is over. Teddy Bridgewater, he will be under center week 1 against the Giants. What was your initial reaction when you learned that it would be Teddy?
You know, my initial reaction was that Teddy Bridgewater pretty much had to play perfectly in this preseason in order to hold off Drew Locke, who has improved greatly since the end of the 2020 season. And he did that. And I think that's ultimately why he won this job. When he was announced, it was this thought of, hey, he played perfectly in this preseason. 16 of 19. One of the incompletions was a drop. Touchdowns on 3 of his 4 drives, a field goal on the other. And I think that showed what the staff kind of thought of him when they brought him in, that he is a guy that can engineer drives, can get the ball out to some of these talented young weapons that they have, and that will be enough with a strong defense to kind of keep them in every game and guide them toward wins, and I think that's ultimately what did it for Teddy.
Well, Coach Fangio, he said that there really wasn't a lot of separation between Drew and Teddy, but maybe there were some intangibles that separated the two. What do you think?
Yeah, it was interesting because I sort of asked Vic Fangio that. I said, because this competition was so close, as you said, what were the differences? What was it, some of these intangibles? And he said, we really just thought that Teddy Bridgewater gave us the best chance to win right now. But Drew Locke mentioned when he spoke later that they did kind of let him know that the experience factor probably helped Teddy a little bit. And obviously he's 28 years old. This is his the 4th team that he'll be playing games for. So he's been there. He has that experience. And I think in a close competition with the schedule that the Broncos have and a chance to get off to a fast start, I think those kind of intangible things ultimately did weigh in Teddy Bridgewater's favor.
Well, for Drew Locke, obviously, hearts must have been broken. Of course, a lot of in Broncos country, but Drew specifically, I don't think he could have handled this situation much better.
No, and that goes back to, I think, the end of last season. He knew after that 5-11 year that even though he had finished the season strong, he was facing kind of some questions about whether he was going to have that job. And he attacked the offseason in a way that I think the staff was really impressed by, from the coaching staff through the front office, in that he overhauled his preparation. He watched film in a different way. He occupied every part of his day with football and just matured and grew. And so I think what you saw yesterday when he sort of said, yeah, it hurts, it stings, it's disappointing, but I'm not going to let it change me. I'm going to keep working. I think that was sort of a culmination of this maturity you've seen in him. Again, 24 years old, never kind of been in this situation, still a guy that's growing in his football career and in his life. And so I do think that he handled that as well as you could, but it didn't surprise me given what he's done since January.
Well, it seems like another major position battle at right tackle has also come to an end. Bobby Massey. Coach Fangio said that it's really his job to lose at this point. So what do you think separated Massey from Calvin Anderson?
Yeah, his job to lose, which makes you think, was he going to trip over his shoelaces in the game on Saturday? Hopefully that doesn't happen, of course.
Right.
I think it goes back to that experience factor again. And, Vic Fangio just said to us after practice that Calvin Anderson, kind of same as Drew Locke, did everything right, had a great offseason of preparation, working with Garrett Bowles, his close friend on the team. They trained together in California, and he had a great camp. He's come a long way over the last year, but I think that Bobby Massey's experience in this league, he's played a lot of games in the NFL. I think that ultimately tipped it, for him. But it's one of those situations where the fact that they have Anderson as a guy capable of stepping in if Massey struggles. He's obviously had some injury issues the last couple years. So again, he's another player who, even though he ultimately, Calvin Anderson didn't win this competition, or it looks like he won't win this competition, they're going to need him at some point this season.
Right. Final preseason game coming up tomorrow at Empower Field at Mile High. Obviously, Broncos taking on the Rams. Who's one guy, or a few if you have a couple in mind, that needs to have a really big game in order to make this final 53-man roster?
Yeah, I think of Seth Williams, the 6th-round rookie wide receiver out of Auburn. He had a slow start to camp, and Vic Fangio talked about it. You know, he played in an offense at Auburn that wasn't particularly sophisticated when it came to the passing game. You know, I think he's had to learn a lot in a short amount of time as he started training camp with his team. But I thought he's come on a little bit the last week. He had the big catch from Drew Locke to extend that drive up in Seattle, where he caught it and then made a lot happen after the catch. He has that ability. I think he really needs to have another big game against the Rams, so he should get plenty of opportunity, because there's spots at the back of that wide receiver group that are up for grabs. You know, whether it's he or Tyree Cleveland, Trinity Benson, who's had a good camp. So I think all three of those guys need to have another big game. And then the other guy I look at is safety Jamar Johnson, the 5th-round pick. Missed the first couple weeks of training camp. He's playing behind a really talented safety group that includes obviously the 2 starters we know, but Caden Stearns, his fellow rookie, PJ Locke has had a great camp. So he's got to put a lot out there on Saturday as well to make this team.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for the time. You guys can follow Nick on Twitter at Nick Kosmider, and also be sure to subscribe to The Athletic for all of his awesome content. Matt, back over to you.
Thank you, Alexis. Okay, Steve, preseason game number 3. Wins and losses again. It's not really about that, but what are your keys to game 3 of the preseason? What do you want to see? What do the Broncos need to accomplish here as we close things out before the 53 is announced on Tuesday?
Well, I think, first of all, the guys who were injured last year, if they could get on the field just a little bit, just to get a little bit of their comfort level, get that up to speed, that'll be great. And then guys on that bubble, they got to go out and play special teams. And it's going to be a long game for some guys. The guys are going to be winning because they're going to be playing special teams and they're going to be playing lots of offense and defense. So it's not going to be a fun game for some of the guys, but that's what it takes if you're going to make an NFL team. But it's been a great camp. We've had a great preseason. Hopefully we can finish it up 3-0.
I'm going to be very excited to see what happens on special teams. Tom McMahon earlier this week said that Trinity Benson and Kendall Hinton will be taking punt and kickoff duty. So is there a position to be won by a wide receiver here on special teams as the 53 gets announced? We will see. We will see. That's going to do it for us, though, on Broncos Weekend. Special thanks to Alexis Perry and Nick Kosmider. For the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater, I'm Matt Boyer. So long, Broncos country. We will see you on game day.